Aloha, welcome to West Maui. I'm Anita Marcy, and this is my Saturday art session. Today's topic will be mixing things. That's something that's I find pretty interesting anyway, and I was recently watching the Food Network and Ina Garten, who I also think is pretty cool, and a fellow New Yorker. She was talking about making a sandwich and how important it is the order in which you put the things together on the sandwich. Okay, so I have to confess that I never even considered that. I had no idea what that even meant. But I thought it was an interesting concept. But she said the way that we put the ingredients, the order in which we put the ingredients on the sandwich actually matters as far as how it's going to taste. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool, because when I'm painting and I'm mixing colors, it really, really matters the order in which you mix the colors. And I thought, well, that's something that most people don't know about color mixing. And maybe it's also something that people don't know about making a sandwich. So it got me thinking, how do we mix things? Do we think about it, or we just put them together? And I thought that's a pretty big idea when you start to think about all the different things that we mix and put together. The way we choose our clothing, the way we choose our ingredients for our dinners, for our foods that we're making, the way we choose our friends, even the people that we choose. So I want to think about mixing things in food and painting and people. So first let's talk about painting, because of course that's my favorite subject. So when I'm painting, I always think about the palette first, of course, and I generally always start with a primary palette, which is of course your red, yellow, and blue. And that doesn't have to always be your standard red, yellow, and blue. Like I could substitute maybe a purple for a blue, or maybe burnt sienna, which is a reddish brown for a red, and a yellow ochre maybe for a yellow. And you go ahead and you think about these colors, but basically I'm always wanting to have my primary palette to start. And then I see Melanie just mixed a really good drink. I know, Mel, you're good at mixing flavors too. You're awesome. Mel's a good friend of mine from college, and we've just reunited, all of us friends from college. We had a big girl group, and boy, did we have fun together. And now we're back at it, and we're having Zoom calls and just really enjoying reuniting. So people, yes, mixing people. And in college, we were pretty much all really into art, kind of artsy. I mean, some of us were not, but most of us were in some form or other. And we really just enjoyed sharing that together and taking classes together and being together. And it was a wonderful experience. And it's so interesting the way, we hadn't spoken for about 40 years, almost 40 years. And then all of a sudden it was like no time had passed. Of course, we had some catching up to do, but it was really quite wonderful. So I feel very fortunate to have that. But again, mixing people, I think one of the main components for that is, what do you have in common? I think when people get together, you have to see if you have some similar goals or ideas or desires or things that you just enjoy experiencing together. And I think that's a really good place to start for a friendship and mixing people. I think the other thing that's really important is I'm going to say humor. Okay, I think that a lot of people don't get each other's humor, and I don't really know that you can be friends with someone when you don't get their humor. I recently had encountered someone who, he's just not funny. I mean, he thinks he's really funny, but the truth of the matter is that I was feeling insulted by things that he was saying to me, and I guess he thought he was funny, but he really wasn't. And not to me anyway. So the bottom line there is you got to just kind of move along. I don't think that you can fix that. I think that when you're in a position and you're with somebody and they think they're being funny and you don't think they're funny, I think you just gotta get away from that situation. Also, I think compatibility, how you express yourself and what you say to each other, how you communicate with each other. Are the people that you're speaking with, are they understanding you? Are they hearing you? Are they even listening? And I think that's a really important thing when you get right down to it. I think to have a friend is to really to be there, to listen to them. And sometimes that's all we need, especially we women. Here's a clue for you guys. We really sometimes just want to be listened to. We just want to say what we have to say. And I find oftentimes, especially when I'm talking to my mom, I find that I have awakenings, awarenesses, things that I hadn't thought about, that as I'm talking with her, I begin to think, oh, well, I hadn't thought about that idea. And things somehow become more clear. And I think that happens especially when you feel comfortable and safe with someone. So think about that. I mean, who's in your life and how are they? And are they listening to you? And do you get their humor? And do they get yours? I think that's a good place to start with mixing people. So then I got to thinking about food. And I thought, I kind of approach food the same way I approach painting. I think I mentioned that before, with a minimal palette. So I love garlic, so I'm always using garlic powder because unfortunately I can't digest garlic, but I can certainly enjoy it in a powder form, fortunately. So I use that a lot. I love Parmesan, and I'm Italian, so yeah, I guess that makes lots of sense. So I think that when you're mixing ingredients, I like to start with those as part of my palette. And then I kind of go from there. And I go from what's fresh and what vegetables I have. I like organic chicken. I found some really delicious organic chicken here. So I think you put your ingredients together and you get your mise en place. I know Mel's gonna like that one too. That means you get your ingredients together and you get ready to cook. And I do the same thing with my painting and my materials. I get everything together and I organize it and I get ready and I'm ready to paint. So I think when you're cooking, it's important to do the same thing. And how you mix your ingredients. Okay, so is the order important? You bet it is. When I'm making my marinara sauce, what do? I start with the olive oil, right? Like, what if I started with the sauce and put the oil into it? Guess what? I tried that. And guess what happens? It doesn't emulsify. It does not mix properly. The oil must come first, and it must be hot. So, I think that there's a lot of, I think one of the words that comes to mind for me in all of this mixing is connection, chemistry, compatibility, but really chemistry, because I think that there's a lot of chemistry that happens. I mean, I can't explain to you why I can take the same 3 colors, and if I mix them in a different way, I'm going to get 3 different colors. I'm never going to get the same color unless I mix it in the same order. Think about that for a minute. Most painters and artists don't know that. And I'm sure other artists that are doing, jewelry designing, you have to select your stones and your metal, of course. And all of those things, you have to think about that. You get all of your materials together. You think about how they're going to mix. And how are they compatible? Are they going to work? Do you need chemistry to make them work? I was talking to a jewelry designer friend of mine in New York, and she was telling me about, some of the chemicals she was using to actually change the patina of the metal. And, it's so fascinating when you start to think about chemistry and what it does. And then I started thinking about baking. Now, I'm not a baker, and I don't want to be a baker because that's just a little too precise for me. And I'm not a big precision type of person. I kind of like to wing things and figure it out as I go. But for now, I was thinking about baking, and I thought, baking has got a lot of chemistry, doesn't it? And I thought, well, now that's pretty interesting, because I think if we did not put the ingredients together in the correct order, we wouldn't get a cake. So, I don't know. Ina Garten started this whole thought process for me, and I thought I would like to share it with you today, because I think it's just kind of fun to think about how you mix things. So how do you guys mix things? Are you mixing, drinks, you're mixing foods, how about gardeners when you're mixing flowers? You're mixing colors and textures, and there's so many things that we mix. And a lot of times I think we do it unconsciously, meaning that we're not really thinking about it. And I don't know, I'm just gonna put this out there, but I'm gonna suggest that you guys start thinking about consciously mixing things. And I mean everything. Like, how about your clothes? How about the colors on your clothes and the patterns? I mean, sometimes, honestly, sometimes I see these guys walking around here and they have these bathing suits and they're like, no, and I'm like, who let you out like that? You know, and it's so funny, you have to laugh. Mostly the women seem to be pretty well put together over here, but we don't wear a lot of clothes, so anyway, it's just something to laugh at, you know. You gotta laugh, right? We guys gotta keep our sense of humor. We gotta keep smiling, and we gotta keep happy. That's for sure. So, I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, and I'm planning to. Our pool is opening again this weekend, finally, so I'm excited about that. I think that's gonna be nice to get back down there. It's been closed for quite a long time, as we all know. Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Please post your thoughts in the comments if you like. I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear about your thoughts about mixing things and your ideas and how you go about mixing things. But I do want to throw that idea out there. Conscious mixing, okay? Conscious combining. Ooh, I like that. So anyway, you guys have a wonderful weekend, and thanks so much for watching. Aloha!